And we're starting this card off with a bang, man. We got Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Clayton Carpenter, 125-pound division, two awesome fighters. I mean, man, imagine if they actually cut this flyweight weight class. There's been so many sick fights at flyweight since all that talk had happened, and we can get too fat, sloppy heavyweights that don't know how to fight, but people don't want to watch these flyweights who are awesome. So I'm super excited for this fight. First fight of the night, and we got a great matchup. Tagir Ulanbekov, Clayton Carpenter. Clayton Carpenter, the guy's young and he needs to get experience. This is a big step up really quick, but I think he has the potential to be an elite fighter. I mean, he's a good athlete. I wouldn't say he's a great athlete, but maximizes his athletic ability. He comes in amazing shape and explosive. He's big for the weight class and moves well on the feet. He closes the distance fast. He has a good lead hook. He has a lead hook rear cross or overhand combination he goes to. Good head movement. He's good at slipping punches, returning with counters. And he'll throw heavy kicks too. His leg kicks are nice. He has a slick head kick. I wouldn't classify him as the best stand-up fighter. I feel like technical pot shotters, people who can throw shots down the middle and move, maybe could give him a little bit of problems. But Carpenter's durable, and his head kicks are dangerous. He has a head kick knockout. He throws heat with his hands, and he's usually able to use his striking to get it to the ground, which is where he wants to be. And he really shines on the ground. His double leg is really good. He's relentless, trying to get fights to the mat. Sometimes he doesn't set his takedowns up the greatest, but he's been able to take down almost everyone he's fought. And when he gets top control, he has good ground and pound. He's aggressive with jiu-jitsu. His submission game is slick. And if he gets your back, his rear naked choke game is on point. We saw Juan Camilo Ronderas. He was actually able to surprise Clayton Carpenter with the takedown of his own, but Carpenter showed his jiu-jitsu chops off his back as well. He locked in a nice triangle armbar, used that to eventually sweep the top position and eventually find the submission from there. So he's a dangerous grappler. He's big for the division. He has a wrestling jiu-jitsu blend. He has solid cardio. He's never faced a fighter like Tagir, though, who has a really good front choke game and kind of figuring out how to close the distance and make it more of a grappling match, but also avoid the submission threats of Tagir is what Carpenter has to do to beat him. We have seen fighters like Tim Elliott beat Ulanbekov with that similar style before, so I think Carpenter is going to have a path to victory and be confident, but Tagir Ulanbekov is long, he's lanky, he's a southpaw, well-rounded skills, and on the feet he has really good distance control. His jab is nice, he has fast 1-2s, he's slick, accurate, technical, picks his shots while he fights smart. He has power, and he just needs to be precise, so he doesn't let go often. He's patient, and I think he's a difficult style matchup for Carpenter on the feet. Like I said, I think Carpenter will struggle versus precision strikers with good footwork and good distance control, and that's kind of what Tagir brings. But defensively, he does float his chin, so I have seen him get clipped a couple times, and he needs to respect the ability Carpenter has to close the distance quickly. And I think he has to be careful ducking his head how he does in this fight certain points, because the head kick from Carpenter could land. But overall, Tagir is probably the better striker. And Tagir has solid wrestling. He can take fighters down against the cage. He has really good back takes. He was able to take Cody Durden down multiple times, and he's taken down all 5 of his UFC opponents. His choke game is solid. He has a good rear naked chokes, good guillotines. Takedown defense is good, and he's good at bouncing back up after being taken down. He's good at that, but conditioning is on point. I think he could have an edge in the conditioning versus Carpenter just due to being in higher level fights. And he's been training with Islam Umar for this camp, so his wrestling offense and defense is probably on point. He does have a lot of pressure to kick off the night right, though. I have to roll with Ulanbekov here purely off being the more experienced fighter. I feel like he should be able to get the timing on his long-range attacks, kind of touch Carpenter up at range. And if he could do that, get Carpenter burn energy either through bad takedowns or through just losing the stand-up battle, I think he could find a choke or get the decision. I could also see Carpenter being confident he can find a submission or sweep off his back and getting taken down, playing jiu-jitsu and losing that way as well by being controlled. And Carpenter just has never fought someone with Ulanbekov's pedigree. Even though I think he could be a high-level guy in the future, I think Ulanbekov is going to be the fighter that hands Clayton Carpenter's first career loss. So give me Takir Ulan off in the first fight of the night to get that victory. And the second fight on the card here, we got Ricky Turcios taking on Bernardo Sopaj. And this is a tricky fight if you ask me. I think Sopaj is a great prospect. He's young, athletic. He trains at a good gym. You could tell he's dedicated. He's polished. But the issue is he just hasn't had much experience. The majority of his fights are easy and quick finishes. He's been a decision, but the decisions he's gone to have been close. He lost one of those decisions. He also got finished in round 3 of his last fight. Ricky Turcios is a fighter who is hard to deal with when you're a young fighter just gaining experience because you're never going to be able to duplicate his style. He has a lot of high-level experience himself, Turcios. Definitely has fought the harder guys. So if he could push the pace and get Sopaj lost in the chaos, I think it could be a lot closer than the line indicates. You look at Ricky Turcios, super flawed, but he still brings good attributes. On the feet, he's almost exclusively kicks. He's not afraid to throw kicks early and often to all parts of the body. Takedown defense, I would say, is virtually non-existent. He doesn't really worry about being put on his back. He more uses the takedowns to create scrambles, but his hands aren't good at all. He kind of just stays out of boxing range, tries to be elusive, weird with his movements, throw a jab out there, try to land counter check hooks, but he's not going to be someone that wants to be in the pocket exchanging punches. He can kind of make for boring stand-up fights because he stays way out of range and you'll just be missing kicks and kind of not engaging. But he'll lull fighters to sleep with that and then time takedowns. And he's not the best wrestler, but he can get fights to the ground. And even if he makes you shoot on him and creates a scramble, he's fine with doing that as well. Really funky on the mat. He gets you tired and then he starts to take over. And Sopaj can get sucked into that vortex with Turcios because Turcios just has more experience there. It did backfire for him his last fight. He ended up, creating a lot of scrambles with Raul Rosas. He actually got to Raul Rosas' back and was really close to choking him out with the rear naked, but he ended up not finishing that choke and got his own back taken and got choked out. So that time it didn't work out for him, but he's beaten guys like Dan Argueta, Kevin Natividad, Ludwig Sholinian, Brady Heistand. All those fighters are credentialed wrestlers. And cardio is big for Turcios. He needs to be active. He needs to throw a lot of kicks. If he has to take a shot or two, then I think he can because he has a chin, and then he has to wrestle. And style-wise, if Sopaj stays technical behind the jab and picks his punches, we have seen Turcios have some issues with that style, like Boston Salmon, Mata Martinez, Eamon Zahabi. Those guys are able to beat him, but it's been a couple of years since he's fought a striker, and he's been at Team Alpha Male for this camp, so he's getting a different look, some solid training, mixing it up, and we'll see if that pays dividends for him. But Bernardo Sopaj, solid stand-up fighter. He has good pressure. He has hard leg kicks, good counter puncher, cuts the cage off. He backs you up. He's pretty good with his accuracy. He hits hard. In this fight, I think he has to attack the legs and the body early, slow the movement of Turcios, and then try to back him up and go to work because he doesn't have a high-volume style or combination style. Tends to rely on one-shot attacks a lot, and fighters that move and don't stay in front of him give him issues because he doesn't really set up and land a lot of offense against guys when they're moving a lot. He wants you to stay in front of him. So if he can't get his leg kicks going early, I think he might struggle to land a lot, but if he's able to back Turcios up and get him in the phone booth, then he's going to have a big edge there. And, I don't think he's the biggest guy. I feel like that's a problem for him. He's going to have a decent reach disadvantage in this fight. And his cardio did look bad versus Oliveira. It led to his loss. He did take the fight on short notice, but he doesn't have very many fights where he pushes the pace, so I just feel like his cardio is probably not the best. And his kicking defense isn't the greatest either. I feel like the stand-up can be competitive in this fight. Sopaj can grapple. He has good takedowns. He has good back takes. I think he will be able to get takedowns here, but it's going to come down if he can control Turcios or take his back and submit him like Rosas, or he gets tired scrambling and then Turcios takes over like usual. Sopaj also got brutally KO'd his last fight, so we don't know where his head is at entering here. And with Turcios, you can't say, the weight cut is maybe an issue because he's a big guy for the weight. You look at his last fight with Bernardo, the fight got canceled on weigh-ins day. I think it was a problem with him cutting down. So hopefully he's able to make the weight and, not have to move up now that he's getting a little bit older. But I'm going to lean with the underdog here. I'm going to go with Tercios. I think his career could be on the line, and he has what it takes to make it weird, gas out, beat a young prospect who hasn't fought in a while. He's coming off a devastating knockout loss, Sopaj. So Sopaj isn't super high volume. I think he could struggle with the kicks of Tercios. I think he may force wrestling, end up getting himself tired. And I think the line should be closer. I feel like, there's a fraud check alert here for Bernardo Sopaj. Not that he can't get better and become a great fighter, and I do think he's UFC level, but he's fighting these, not upper echelon, but high-level guys early on in his career, and I just don't know if he has the experience to back that up and beat someone like Ricky Tercios. So I feel like Ricky Tercios is live here and can get the job done. So give me Ricky Tercios to win this fight here. And this next one here, similar matchup to the last fight we were talking about where Rinya Nakamura, the prospect, is taking a big step up in competition, but I don't think this one there's as big of a likelihood as an upset. Nakamura, he has been fighting lower level kind of fringe UFC guys so far, and Gafrov, even though he's not one of the best in the world, I do think he is a pretty big step up, but, Nakamura, he's been able to use those wrestling skills that he has and pretty much dominate everyone that he's fought. His stand-up is still developing, but he showed some big power in his debut in the UFC. He's athletic, he's fast, he's explosive, he cuts the cage off well, switches stances, kind of just relies right now on winging big power overhands to get inside, and his head kick is okay too, I will say, but once he gets fighters near the fence, he's going to shoot. He likes to go single leg. His wrestling, his riding ability is really top-notch, and his submission game seems okay. I feel like he needs to improve his ground and pound and kind of his finishing threats on top, though. But conditioning seems good. He looks like a great prospect. And Gafrov, he's dangerous. He's a good pressure fighter. He'll get in your face. He'll throw big hooks. He'll go to the body. He has power. He'll throw hard kicks. He has good spinning kicks as well, leg kicks. And his wrestling is all right, but he's sloppy, makes mistakes. He can scramble well, though, and that's something that he's going to need in this fight. He did spend a decent amount of time on his back against Kyung Ho King, and he has several losses to wrestling-based fighters. He has good cardio, but he pushes a really high pace and doesn't pace himself well, so tends to slow down. But experience-wise here in this particular matchup, he has a gigantic advantage. He needs to try to use that, but I feel like unless he could take out Nakamura early, Nakamura is going to get the wrestling going and just beat him. You see that Gafrov, he's 2-5 in decisions, and I just feel like Nakamura, he's probably not going to finish Gafrov. Gafrov, experience, is decent enough grappler, probably not going to catch him with a knockout on the feet, but I think he's going to wrestle him up for probably 2 of the 3 rounds at minimum, maybe even all 3, and pick up another win. So Rinya Nakamura via decision is the prediction for me. And this next fight, we got the first female fight on the card, Elina Perez versus Kirill Hosa. And this one, I do kind of feel like they're trying to find a way to get Elina Perez in the title picture here because they're giving her a matchup that's winnable, but I just don't know if she's going to be able to get the job done at this point in her career. Kirill Hosa, she's been looking good recently. She's been having some really awesome, fun fights, bangers with strikers, going to war, and her leg kicks have looked super awesome lately. She almost got Irene Aldana out of there with low kicks. Then her last fight, she did a number again with her leg kicks. And if this fight stays standing at range, she's going to chew up Elina Perez. She's going to be the better boxer and the better kicker. Elina Perez is super reliant on the takedowns in this fight. She's going to have to move around side to side, use a lot of lateral movement, try to explode in with some strikes when she can, but really time the takedown and control on top. And the thing is, Kirill Hosa isn't the fastest. She can look a little stuck in the mud sometimes. And if Aline Perez can use that superior speed and movement, kind of stay outside of her range and blitz in at the right times, then maybe she could be competitive, especially by mixing in the takedowns. Because we've seen Carol Hosa get taken down in the past. Like Sarah McMahon was able to upset Carol Hosa and control her in her 40s and beat her by decision. So I feel like Perez, her wrestling is good. I mean, she could be able to maybe do something similar, but you look at Aline Perez on the ground, she makes a lot of mistakes. She'll lose position a lot, and she's fighting lower level girls, whereas I feel like Carol Hosa, she'll probably be able to use the black belt that she has to get out of bad positions that Perez does put her in if Perez can't get takedowns, and get on top and be the better grappler overall. And on top of that, I feel like she also has a big advantage in terms of doing damage on the feet. So Perez could win if she could just blanket Hosa or control her against the fence and be super grappling heavy, but I'm not super sold on Perez's ability to be the nail in a fight. I don't know how she's going to do if she's getting really beat on. It seems like she might be a little bit weak mentally in that regard, and I also just feel like Hosa has a lot more experience against the higher level competition, and that's going to see her through here. So at this moment, I'm going to roll with Carol Hosa, the favorite. And up next here, I'm excited to see how this one plays out here. Zach Reese taking on the short notice debutant Osmapov. And Zach Reese, the guy's super dangerous. He's a beast. On the feet, he's tall, long, aggressive, fast, athletic, all gas, no brakes fighter too. I mean, you've seen his fight career. The guy's got so many finishes, super fast in the first round, and even in the UFC, he's gotten 2 really quick finishes. But obviously against Jose Medina in his last fight, he went all 3 rounds and kind of proved that he can fight 15 minutes, so that was good to see. But style-wise, I mean, the guy has really good 1-2s, overhands, nasty uppercut. His kicks are really good. I mean, good leg kicks. He really brutalized the liver of Jose Medina his last fight. And he'll throw kicks to all parts of the body. He's ran a ton of guys over really quick just by blitzing them and being really aggressive. And defensively, he's athletic, so he can kind of get out of the way and return with some combinations and make you weary. But he has kind of a killer be killed style. I feel like he does leave openings, but honestly, the striking in this competition here, I feel like he could have the advantage. Bakov has good pressure. He's good at staying patient, and his last fight, it was kind of out of the ordinary for him. He was a lot more aggressive. His opponent was really loading up with shots, and Reese could do similar, even though Reese is a lot longer, though, so that's going to be a difference. But Bakov was able to catch him with a nice hook counter and knock him out clean. But a lot of the time, Bakov stays real tight with his boxing, stay sharp. He's good at backing you up to the fence and then going body head with combinations. And he mixes in the takedowns really well. But I feel like defensively, he is there to get hit. Doesn't move his head. He's very heavy on his lead leg, so I feel like leg kicks are there as well. And his grappling looks solid, but he does go head on the outside single sometimes, leave his neck out there, and I feel like he makes some mistakes in the grappling that maybe Reese could take advantage of. But he has a more economical style and obviously way more experience in longer fights. Bakov is a former LFA champion, or current. I mean, I guess now he's not anymore, getting signed with UFC, but he had been the champion up until he got signed on Monday, and he's shown that he could push a hard pace for 5 rounds. He could wrestle for 5 rounds, but I don't know. I mean, Zach Reese, his wrestling doesn't look good. I mean, I feel like he can get taken down very easily, but his front chokes, his arm bars are really nasty. He's finished a ton of guys off his back, so I'm a little worried he could get stalled out against the fence, but I don't know if Bakov really wants to take him down and test that grappling. His fight with Cody Brundage, he did get slam KO'd after he was going for an armbar, but that's usually not going to be something that's very likely. Man, I mean, I think Reese has a decent chance to finish, whether it's a knockout, club, and submission. But Koev, if he had a full camp for this one and was coming in with notice that he knew he was fighting a tall, long, dangerous guy like Zach Reese, then I think I would predict him to win. But where you look at where the line is at now, I mean, Reese, he's taking some money now where he's not 2-1 anymore, but he was over 2-1 underdog, and I feel like he's very dangerous everywhere. Bakov coming here on really short notice, I don't feel like he's necessarily like anything special. Zach Reese could finish him, so that's what I'm going to predict here. I'm going to predict Zach Reese wins this one inside the distance. And up next here, man, this fight I'm super looking forward to. Grant Dawson versus Carlos Diego Ferreira. And Grant Dawson, this guy's been looking awesome recently since going to ATT. He's only had the one loss where he got knocked out quick by Bobby Green. And outside of that, he's actually been getting more finishes recently, which has been the big knock on him throughout his career. He's been boring. He just controls. And I believe he's gotten 2 finishes in his last 2 fights. If not, he did get a choke and a ground and pound win very recently. So he's been looking a little bit more dangerous on the mat and improving, obviously. But Carlos Diego Ferreira, 40 years old, but the guy's still an old warhorse, man. The guy's a veteran that is still very much in it. He had a time in his career where he had a long layoff, and I think that helped him kind of still be viable at this point. And he did have some losses. He had that fight versus Gamrot where he was looking good and then got injured. So at a certain point after that, you're kind of maybe wondering, was this the end of the road for CDF? But came back, got that big knockout over Michael Johnson, and then picked up an upset victory over Mateusz Rebecki where he had to come back through some adversity and look like vintage CDF. So, man, if CDF can show up like he did versus Rebecki, I think this is a really awesome matchup that's going to be very fun to watch. And you look at it, I mean, on the feet, Grant Dawson is going to be faster, and he isn't a zero in the stand-up. Like, he will try to land these long-range weapons like knees. He'll land decent kicks, check hooks. But his durability is a big question mark for me, man. I feel like that Bobby Green knockout, he put him to sleep, and Bobby Green isn't really known as a big puncher. So if CDF can crack him, I feel like he definitely has a big chance to knock him out, because CDF is a heavy-handed guy. And you look at CDF, he's hittable at this point in his career. He's definitely gotten a lot slower, but he has a really good chin, and he has great cardio and just pressures forward. He is able to take damage, and he believes in his ability to land these switch stance 1-2s, which he's always looking for throughout the whole fight, and big overhands. And he only needs one to connect heavy, and he could change the fight, or he could hurt you and finish you. And on top of that, where I'm really excited to see this fight is the grappling from both these guys. Grant Dawson has super good wrestling. His back takes are incredible, and he just has really good back control. But Carlos Diego Ferreira, I mean, this guy's been a motherfucker for wrestlers and grapplers his whole career. The guy's one of the best pure jiu-jitsu guys in the UFC. He is so good at creating scrambles when you do actually take him down. And on top of that, his takedown defense is really high level. And when he gets on top, he's a demon, man. The guy's ground and pound is vicious. He has great chokes. And Grant Dawson is going to be in for it in this fight if he can't figure out how to take this guy down and backpack him and just bleed the clock, because I feel like I don't think he's going to be able to control CDF if he's inside of CDF's guard, or he's going to be very confident in doing that. CDF's going to be rolling for legs and things like that, and he's just going to not allow him to hold him down there. And I don't know if CDF's just going to be an easy back take for Grant Dawson or an easy takedown in general. I mean, we saw a guy like Gregor Gillespie, who's an extremely high-level credentialed wrestler, really, really struggle mightily to take down Carlos Diego Ferreira, and then even Mateus Gamero was having issues taking him down as well. So if this fight stays standing, Dawson can be competitive for minutes because of his speed, I feel like, and maybe ATT is going to have him tuned up and ready to go with the stand-up, but I think CDF is just going to be the more experienced, composed guy over time there, and when he connects, he's going to hurt Grant Dawson. And I don't see him being that easy to control. I just feel like this fight should be lying closer. I feel like Grant Dawson has dropped the ball in the past, even though he has the one loss to Bobby Green, and that's it. He had the draw with Ricky Glenn. He had another fight that I can't remember exactly who he was fighting for some reason, but it was a tough fight in that one as well, where he had a more jiu-jitsu-based fighter. So I just feel like CDF has a decent chance to win at these odds here. If he comes in, he still looks viable. I feel like all he needs is one punch on the feet to change the fight, and his grappling is top-notch. So I think CDF is going to be the side for me here, and I'm going to say he wins via knockout. And this next fight, Bogdan Guskov taking on Billy Ilakina. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one because I'm not a big fan of this fight. I don't think the line is bettable really on either side. Billy Ilakina coming in on really short notice. Guskov was getting ready to fight Johnny Walker, so I do think it's a fairly big switch up in terms of style matchup, but Guskov has fought, multiple times in the UFC at this point, has had the training camp, definitely has a big advantage coming in here, but Billy Ilakina, he's a hot prospect. He's someone that's been known for a while, and he's a big guy. He's very athletic. He has some big wins as an amateur, but primarily a grappler, but he doesn't have the best wrestling, and I think that's where he's going to struggle in this one. Ilakina, he is decent at fighting long, and he's able to kind of get guys to come to him, clinch, and then when he clinches you against the fence, he could take you down, and he's pretty good with that. And then his top control and his ground and pound is just his wrestling offense and riding ability is good, but he struggles to actually initiate the takedowns against guys that don't do it for him, and he can get clipped with straight punches. He's a little bit of a tall man defense going on, and his offense is really limited. He doesn't throw much in the stand-up, whereas Guskov, he's a mobile guy that throws really nice straight punches, combinations, very dangerous striker, and then his wrestling and his grappling isn't really the greatest. I feel like his wrestling defense is going to be able to hold up more than likely, and I think he's going to be able to overwhelm Billy with the hand combos. Ilakina is durable at this point. He's never been finished, so that's another question. Is Guskov going to get tired trying to finish this guy, and then Billy's going to clinch him and get a takedown and finish Guskov off and kind of ruin everyone's parlays? I mean, that's why I don't like this fight, because I feel like Guskov should win, probably should dominate, maybe even should get an early finish. But if he doesn't and Billy Ilakina can hang in there, is in decent shape even with the short notice, then it could get kind of sketchy. So just not a lot of interest here, and I think that ultimately for me the prediction is going to be Guskov to win, but don't really like this fight. And up next here, we got two heavyweight grapplers, Jolton Almeida, Sergey Spivak. Interesting fight, but I feel like it's a pretty easy fight for me to predict. I just feel like Almeida's better everywhere, man, and I don't really got a super technical breakdown to give you or anything like that. Maybe you could give Spivak the edge in the boxing, but I think Almeida on the feet is more dynamic. He moves better. He's going to be faster. I think he's going to be staying out of range for Spivak, kind of able to evade his pressure and time the takedown when Spivak makes a mistake lunging with a punch or throws a kick and get on top. And I don't know if he's going to be able to just dominate Spivak and submit him like he has these other heavyweights. It might have to go a little longer, but honestly, I mean, from what we've seen, I feel like if he could get Spivak in some of these dominant positions that he's getting these other guys in, I think he probably can get the finish. Spivak, he relies on his grappling primarily, his clinch takedowns, his control on top. He has good ground and pound, and his cardio is good, and he's gotten better with his boxing, like I said, but he's too slow, I feel like, and I think that Almeida is going to be able to take advantage of that. He's not someone that can crack, really, and change the fight with his knockout power or anything, so Almeida's not going to have as big of a threat in front of him in terms of on the feet. And I don't think that he's going to be able to submit Almeida with an armbar off his back like he did at Tybura. I mean, Almeida is going to be more ready for something like that. I think Tybura just kind of got caught slipping because that's a very rare occurrence at heavyweight. And Almeida just saw Spivak catch a submission like that. So I think he's going to be ready for it. And he's going to be the better grappler as well. So I just feel like Almeida here is going to be able to win, whether he has to fight a longer fight and win via decision or whether he wins via submission or finish early with ground and pound. I think it'll be a first round finish for Almeida or a decision win, but I think Jolton Almeida is going to get the job done in this matchup. And up next here, we got another build-up fight for Peyton Talbot. This one is definitely a lot harder than the fights that he has been having. I guess Cameron Simone is respectable, but a lot of Peyton Talbot's fights in the UFC have been pretty easy. But you look at Hyoni Barcelos, this guy that's been around. He's fought everybody. I mean, he fought the guy in the co-main event, Umar Nurmagomedov, even though he got knocked out pretty quickly. But huge underdog versus Peyton Talbot because of his age, because of his where he's at in his career at this point. And they're definitely setting Talbot up to get a marquee win here and then move along in the division. And Talbot's looking like a future star at bantamweight. Barcelos, I think, is nothing more than a gatekeeper at this point. Barcelos is one of these guys that he's definitely still dangerous. He is very good in exchanges. If you just stand right in front of him and you go 1-for-1 with him, he has really nasty crosses, uppercuts. He'll throw a good jab, check hook, and his kicks are nice too, but he's not throwing a lot in combination. He's very low volume. If you move on him and can kind of stick and move and catch him, then he struggles with that. He's not the best with his kicking defense either. And his chin is very questionable at this point. He's been knocked out before. He's been wobbled and dropped in a lot of fights. And although he's shown good recoverability, as he's getting up there in age more and more, and now that he's gotten knocked out, that's going to slowly erode. And his wrestling and his grappling is really top notch. That's where I think he should take this fight. And in the past, if he was a little bit more durable, if he was just a little bit more hungry and everything like that, then maybe Hyoni could go in here and get a huge upset with his wrestling, control Talbot on the ground, maybe even get his back and get that choke. But at this point in his career, I just don't have any faith he's going to do that. Talbot's a big guy, good wrestling background. He's someone that has proven that you could take him down, you could punch him in the face, you can beat on him, but he's going to take all that up front, come back, beat you late, and his cardio is unrelenting. He's someone that picks up as the fight goes on, and he's a finisher, and recently he's been getting better early in the fight, and I just feel like his size, his length, his movement, his ability to exchange in the pocket and throw heat, just like Hyoni, which Hyoni wants to do, but I think that Talbot's better at it. He's going to throw more numbers, combinations. He's going to throw more variations of strikes. He's going to have more power and more durability, and his cardio is going to be better, and I just think he's going to be doing more, and ultimately I just don't trust Hyoni's chin to stay intact here against a guy like Peyton Talbot who's going to be throwing super heat. So I just think Talbot's going to get the win here inside the distance versus Hyoni Barcelos and finish him. Continues progression, and no hot take here for me. I think Peyton Talbot's going to get this win. Probably first or second round knockout. And kicking off the main card, we got Kevin Holland taking on Ranier de Ridder in a interesting fight here at 185 pounds. Kevin Holland coming back after that bad performance with Roman Dolidze where he got hurt after the first round and ended up having to end the fight there. And he wasn't looking the greatest, though. I feel like he probably came into the fight with that injury because he was sitting down, throwing heavy with his punches early, trying to end it. And when he got taken down, he had nothing off his back. And I think that he probably knew that if he couldn't get that knockout early, he was going to end up losing that fight, which is what happened. And Holland, I mean, at this point in his career, man, I mean, how much can you trust the guy? The guy went down to 170 to try to give it a real run, and he did well at 170, but, ended up losing to the upper echelon of that division. He went to a split decision with Jack Della Maddalena, who's, getting close to fighting for the belt at this point, and he kind of went back to his old ways of just taking short notice fights, fighting up at 85 again now, and I think he's kind of given up that dream of chasing the title. He's more turned into this fun fighter again, and now he's taken on a wrestler, grappler, a big guy, Reinier de Ridder, and you got to question, is he the job guy again for the UFC? Or, I mean, does the UFC, call Kevin Holland up, say, we want to give you this 185 wrestler guy, and Kevin Holland kind of knows the drill, and I'm not going to say he's going to lose on purpose, but it's a way that the UFC is going to set up de Ridder to get a win. I mean, it is possible. They paid de Ridder a lot of money to come over from a different promotion, and they're going to need to get dividends on that. So I definitely think that they want de Ridder to come in here and to exploit the weaknesses of Kevin Holland that other people have had in the past and get the submission or get the decision win. And I feel like people are hard on de Ridder, man, and I myself included. I didn't like him. I picked GM3 versus him in his debut, and I was impressed with him in that fight. Even though some people are kind of trashing his performance there versus GM3, I think he showed good cardio. I think that even though his striking is sloppy, he's durable enough. I think he could take shots, and he's good at timing the takedowns, timing the clinch, and he will throw some dangerous strikes back at you. It seems like he has an okay jab, okay knees up the middle. He's not a zero on the feet, and I just think that Kevin Holland is way better with the stand-up, especially if he can feint and throw straight punches, but I don't trust Holland to stop these takedowns, man, and I think if de Ridder can get one takedown, he's going to cement top position, do damage, get Holland tired, and Holland's just going to revert back to accepting that position, and that's going to lead to him being more hesitant on the feet going forward, and I think de Ridder's going to hit another takedown, and the same thing's going to happen, and if Holland gets too over-aggressive trying to stand up, de Ridder can't submit him, and de Ridder I just think is the hungrier guy at this point in his career. I think that he's going to go out there and he's going to be able to stay away from getting knocked out, time some takedowns, get on top, and end up winning this decision. I just think he's too big. He is too good of a wrestler, grappler with his timing. Holland's going to come in there, and Holland, more than likely, if he gets taken down, he's not even going to try to stand back up. And how much are you going to trust Holland coming into this fight in terms of how much he's prepared the right way to fight someone like de Ridder? He's going to go in there and probably do the same thing he does in every fight, and I just think that de Ridder's going to exploit him and win this fight just off being the hungrier, smarter fighter here with a skill set that Kevin Holland struggles with and in a weight class that Kevin Holland probably shouldn't be in. So I think that Reinier de Ridder is going to win this matchup here. And in this next one, we have another really hard fight to predict, in my opinion, Beneil Dariush and Renato Moicano. Because I feel like if these guys are fighting at a different point in their careers, like a couple years ago, Beneil would be a pretty sizable favorite. But after Beneil's most recent performances, getting knocked out by Arman Tsarukyan, losing to Charles Oliveira, he's the underdog here, and he's coming in off of a layoff. He is a little bit older, but Moicano is also an older guy. But the difference with Moicano is he's gained a lot of fans recently with his YouTube channel, with his post-fight press conference or post-fight interviews in the cage. And honestly, I mean, just his performances in the octagon too, you can't overlook that. He's gotten 3 wins in a row. He beat Drew Dober. He beat Jalen Turner. He got a win over Benoit Saint Denis. And it might even be 4 wins in a row because I think he beat Brad Riddell as well. So he's just been on a good run recently, looking good. And it's going to come down to, is Beneil Dariush able to muster up another performance, or is Renato Moicano kind of in the point in his career where he can beat a Beneil Dariush and keep it rolling? Because Benio Dariush is still elite, man. The guy's still the cream of the crop from the last time we saw him. If he is able to have a similar level of MMA ability. I mean, I guess the last fight we didn't see much with Arman. He got knocked out quick. Even the fight with Charles, he got the takedown, but then he got finished on the feet. But the last time that we saw him fight a long fight with Mateus Gamrot, if he has that Benio Dariush in him, I think he could win this fight because you look at the stand-up, I think Benio is the more dynamic guy. Renato Moicano, good 1-2s. He has a decent jab, good leg kicks, but both these fighters are chinny. And Benio, I think, is more dangerous, though. He has bigger power in his hands and his kicks. I think he's better in the pocket exchanging. And in terms of wrestling, I think Benio Dariush has the edge in the wrestling by a pretty significant margin. He should be able to mix in takedowns if he wants to, get on top, or at least push Renato against the cage. And Renato, I think, is going to struggle to take down Benio. And Benio, theoretically, I mean, you look at their jiu-jitsu pedigrees, Benio has a better jiu-jitsu also. So I just feel like Benio is better than him everywhere in this fight. He's the bigger guy. He's fought at 155 his full career. Renato is someone that's came up from 45s and more dynamic striker. He is better on the ground, better wrestling. His conditioning is really good. It's not like either of these guys are going to slow down or have issues in that regard. And it's just going to come down to if Benio gets hit with a gust of wind, is he going to get knocked out? Because I think you could make the argument that both these guys don't have a great chin. So it kind of goes away for me there, and it makes me lean towards Benio again. But if Benio is so much more compromised than Renato, then maybe that is an issue. And when you look at Benio's desire to come back and fight after 2 losses in a row, where is he at mentally? Those kind of things are questions as well, because Renato's riding a high right now. But having said all that, I just feel like Benio is the better fighter, and I could see this fight playing out similar to RDA versus Moicano, where just Benio is able to land the bigger punches, pressure forward, get takedowns, and win in that manner. And unless Benio is super washed up, I think he's going to be able to win this matchup. And this next one, this fight I'm super excited for to watch as a fan, but to be honest with you guys, I'm probably not the best person to be giving a prediction on this one because I just don't have a read on this fight at all. Like, I think that Jamal is the better striker, so he's probably going to win this fight, but where's Jamal's head at right now, man? I mean, the guy's like all over the place. It seems like he's totally lost and just focused on Alex Pereira. It's like, are you going to be able to stay in the moment and know that you have to deal with hell with this Yuri Prochazka guy? Because this guy's going to walk through a crazy amount of damage. He's going to be able to likely land some big shots on you, so you just have to be ready and aware. But ultimately, I mean, Jamal Hill, the guy's good at checking leg kicks, which I think Yuri's going to try to go for here, and Jamal is as well. But he's just the more defensively responsible striker. He throws power. He's good at hanging on the back foot. He's not going to like overextend and get super crazy. And Yuri, I think, is the guy that's taken way more damage. Even though Jamal Hill got knocked out by Alex Pereira, that was obviously the only time he's ever lost. And he's never really lost by knockout, my bad. And he's never really taken like crazy damage. So Yuri, on the other hand, has been knocked out years ago. He's gotten knocked out by Pereira twice. He's been in multiple fights, or he's been on the brink of being finished, and he's kind of toughed man his way out of it. And if he can explode in on Jamal and catch him with something to knock him out, then hey, I mean, that's going to be a feather in his cap, another huge big-time victory. But I just feel like Jamal is too mobile. He's going to be evasive. He's going to be not like such a stagnant target for these crazy attacks that Yuri likes to throw like some of these other guys. And I think that Jamal is going to be able to line him up and land counters. And if I had to guess which guy is more durable at this point in their career still and who I think could take more damage, I got to roll with Jamal Hill. I feel like Yuri may be damaged goods, man. I mean, maybe Jamal is going to knock him out quick here, and we're going to see the demise of Yuri pretty fast. I mean, the guy had a ton of fights before he even came to the UFC. But hey, I know a lot of people are Yuri fans. They think he has really dynamic striking, and it's true. His striking is crazy wild, and a lot of his fights he's been able to take a lot of damage, wear on these guys, and then when they're tired, land a dynamic shot and get them out of there. And maybe he could do that to someone like Jamal Hill, but I'm just leaning towards Jamal Hill. But like I said, I don't have a great read on this one. It's not like I'm super confident in Hill winning. So this is one of these fights I need your guys' help with, man. Put down in the comments, who do you think is going to win this one? Jamal Hill, Yuri Prochazka? Do you got a confident lean? What is kind of giving you that read? Why you think they're going to win? What are they going to do? Like, what's the advantage that the one guy has that's going to play out for you? If you see a clear path for one of them, I would be curious. But I'm going to go with Jamal Hill by knockout. And man, co-main event time. If you're an MMA fan, you're not excited for this fight, I gotta check your pulse, man, because what more could you want? I mean, the best are back to fighting the best. We got Merab Dvalishvili taking on Umar Nurmagomedov, and on top of just the matchup being incredibly high level, there's some heat on the fight too. So you got the best of both worlds, man. I mean, Merab Dvalishvili has his back against the wall here. He's kind of been pushing a corner a little bit. He probably feels like everyone is against him. He's gotten pressured by the fan base. UFC brass take this fight earlier than he wanted, and he feels Umar Nurmagomedov got to cut the line because of politics. And whatever you think of Umar's skill set, it is true that that happened. Merab had to beat 3 former world champions, win 10 fights in a row before getting a title shot. Umar has had 6 UFC fights. He only has 1 ranked win. And he's getting the same opportunity. But you can say Umar is 18-0. So it's the best fight the UFC can make from a skill perspective. And I'm glad they made it. I'm definitely excited to see it. So, man, I mean, style-wise, everyone knows Merab at this point. But he's improved quite a bit. His last fight, he showed patience. I don't think many fans, pundits believed he had. He was able to avoid almost all of Sean O'Malley's dangerous attacks. He was still pressuring, implementing his game plan. And he's a short, compact guy. He's in constant motion. He's has fast feet. He can move in and out of range well, changes levels really effectively. He's feigning, faking, keeping fighters off balance. He has good spin kicks, low kicks. His jab isn't terrible. He'll try to land the counter check hooks with his lead hand too. Big overhands. He's good at disguising the overhand behind a level change feint or vice versa. You also get wild. You'll throw spinning kicks, jumping attacks. He isn't normally the most effective with those strikes, but we did see him knock out Rafael Stotts with the spinning back fist back in the day. In this fight, he needs to push the pace in the stand-up. He needs to cut the cage off, force exchanges. At distance, he needs to throw a lot of leg kicks and try to stay defensively as responsible as he can. And his chin is amazing. I mean, he's been hurt, but his conditioning makes him super difficult to knock out. No one's been able to do it yet. He does cut a lot of weight, so his weight cuts are not easy. And you did see in the 5th round, O'Malley did attack the body, which he didn't do much throughout the fight. And he may have laid a blueprint for Umar because he hurt him to the body multiple times. And that front kick, Merab did not like it at all. So going to the body on Merab is something I would do if I'm Umar Nurmagomedov. But I think Merab does have a chance to land over the top here, though. Umar does pull back with his chin high quite often. And if Merab throws combinations, is aggressive, he has a chance to land himself, I feel. But wrestling is what everyone knows Merab for, though. He has an incredibly explosive single, double leg, ton of different finishes he goes to, and if he can get it on the legs, he's just super strong. He's been able to demoralize fighters, slam them, just ragdoll them around. His clinch takedowns are also on point. He has no weaknesses really in the offensive wrestling department. His last fight, he was more patient. He was good with setting the takedowns up, shooting at smart times even, so that was even another improvement. And on top of Merab is more of a mauler. He just tries to use that top pressure, short elbows, punches, rough you up. When you work to stand up, he'll ride you. He'll throw knees to the legs, body. And he has to be a little bit smarter of keeping his hands up off the brakes in this fight. He had some issues with that in previous fights. And he's been attempting guillotines more in recent fights, been looking a little bit more effective in that front headlock position. So that's another thing that he's been getting a little bit better with. And we've seen short moments of other fighters taking Merab down or Merab, just ending up on his back for whatever reason. Henry Cejudo, Cody Stamen were both able to control Merab for at least over a minute on top, but no one has really been able to take Merab's back or put him in a bad position on the ground. In this fight, maybe Umar maybe could put Merab in those spots. So Merab just has to be alert that takedowns may come, so he needs to be ready to not let that happen because Umar is going to try to get rest off the takedowns if he's going for him. And Umar Nurmagomedov, he's a new breed fighter, extremely well-rounded. He actually started off striking first, and you could tell he's a sniper on the feet. He moves extremely well. He switches stances, good at pot-shotting you from distance, amazing kicks to all parts of the body. I think this fight needs to throw a lot of leg kicks, body kicks, and then eventually go up to the head when Merab starts to try to catch the kicks and maybe they're affecting him to the body. And I think Merab's going to be trying to time takedowns, overhands on the kicks of Nurmagomedov. So Umar just has to set them up well. But Nurmagomedov has super sharp hands too. He'll sting fighters with counter punches. A lot of times he's kind of a one punch, maybe two punch at a time guy. But he has power clearly because fighters respect him on the feet. And I think part of that is obviously due to the takedown threat also. But his footwork, his pot-shotting ability, his ability to control distance is really good. His last fight with Corey Sandhagen kind of poker-faced it. But I think he got really tired. He didn't throw nearly as much offense after the second round and let Nurmagomedov settle into a point-fighting pace where Nurmagomedov was able to beat Corey Sandhagen in a point-fighting striking fight, which is obviously very impressive. But early on, Sandhagen was having some success with leg kicks, but he went away from that. I think Merab needs to look to duplicate that, but keep on the leg kicks. And Umar has been knocked down a couple of times with overhands. He has a tendency to kind of lean back to evade shots. So if I'm Merab, I'm going to try to attack the body with straight punches and time takedowns off that pullback. And then eventually when Nurmagomedov tries to make up for that, go over the top and land an overhand, try to drop him. But Nurmagomedov also hasn't really faced guys that have been willing to mix it up and strike off failed takedowns. So Merab needs to shoot that attack right away, try to break Umar's rhythm, just needs to stay moving and going forward. And for Nurmagomedov, he has to pull Merab into power shots, attack the body, get Merab hesitant and close the distance. And once he has Merab hesitating, then he can just win at range with his pressure and kicks. And Umar has amazing timing on his singles. He uses the single to take the back really well. He has a really good scrambling ability, wrestling cardio. His submission game is better than Merab's, but I think if he hits takedowns, it's more to mix it up here than really control or finish. Corey Sandhagen, he was able to get back up like almost 10 times against Nurmagomedov, so I feel Merab probably could do the same. Nurmagomedov has never had a fighter attempt a ton of takedowns on him or force him to wrestle defensively. Obviously, in practice, I'm sure he's been dragged through the ringer, but we've never seen it in a real fight. Nurmagomedov didn't slow down at all, though, in a high-paced 5 rounds with Sandhagen, but there was no really wrestling attempts from Sandhagen in that fight, and Nurmagomedov didn't end up on bottom at all. This fight, I think is just amazing. I think that the line is disrespectful to Merab. Umar's striking is way prettier than Merab's, but Merab's striking is effective. On the feet, I think it's going to come down to who can control the range. If Merab can eat shots and walk through them, get inside, make it ugly, I kind of favor him there on the inside, close, dirty boxing range. I think he's more tested. He's been forged to the fire more. He's a little bit bigger and more durable, and he needs to be high volume. Like I said, go to the legs, go to the body, wrestle hard. And if he tries to change it up and not wrestle here, I think he's pretty dead in the water. He has to off-balance Umar, get him thinking about throwing kicks, by catching the kicks, using them to create a takedown scramble. And we haven't really seen Umar, how he's going to react to getting bullied in there by a superior wrestler. For Umar, it's all about timing, though, keeping the distance, being patient, sharp, mobile. If he could pull Merab into big shots, make him hesitant, make him kind of emotional even, then I feel like he could maybe mix in some takedowns and control Merab on top and break him. But I honestly see this as a closer to maybe like 55-45 towards Umar than where the odds are at now. I don't really know how Nurmagomedov can warrant that kind of respect when you look at the guys' resumes. And I think Merab's going to come out here and surprise a lot of people, and I think it's going to be a really close competitive fight that could go either way, and I'm going to say the champ retains his belt, wins in a big upset, and Merab Dvalishvili is, and still here, Merab Dvalishvili via decision. And finally, we got the main event: Islam Makhachev taking on Arman Tsarukyan, and arguably the best rematch the UFC's ever done in terms of skill level. I mean, Islam had the rematch with Alex Volkanovski, so you can kind of even argue whether this is Islam's best rematch opponent, but whatever you want to say, this is an incredibly high-level matchup. Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan 2. Islam, first time, he was the big man on campus for sure in that fight. He had a lot of UFC fights. He was very well known. Arman Tsarukyan jumped in short notice, was a really young kid at that point, and first UFC fight, ended up losing via decision, but he impressed a lot of people, and people kind of bookmarked him as someone to watch in the division going forward at that point. And man, I mean, everyone was right. Islam went on to win the title. Arman is now one of the best in the world, and they're going to be fighting again for the belt this time. And man, I think they both respect each other a lot, but they're confident they're going to beat each other, and it's going to be high-level matchup in the cage. But you look at how these guys match up. I think for Arman Tsarukyan, your game plan, I think, would be to try to keep it on the feet, keep it standing, man. Stay at distance, throw a lot of kicks. Try to believe in your hands a little bit more. Catch Islam as he tries to come forward with straight punches. Maybe you could knock him out. I feel like Arman has a lot of power in his hands. He just doesn't trust his boxing as much as he should. Like, you see him throwing these punches to set up his takedown sometimes, and they're just such baby punches. Like, he's not really trying to do much damage or do much with them, where I feel like if he really believed more in his stand-up, stayed at distance with Islam, threw a lot of kicks, forced Islam to close that distance, and then threw heat with his hands, tried to catch Islam as he's moving across the gap with some big straight punches, he could maybe catch and hurt Islam or knock him out or just keep him at bay and be the more explosive, better kicker from distance. But I feel like Arman, old habits die hard, and he's going to try to wrestle here. And if he does, I just don't think he's going to have any success taking down Islam. Islam, though, I think is going to struggle mightily to take down Arman as well. I mean, we saw that in the first fight between these two guys, but Islam kind of separated himself with the clinch takedowns in the first fight. He was able to get him down with some clinch takedowns, and I think that if Arman does give Islam the clinch here again, he's going to, one, land a lot of really nice knees, which Islam is good at, but also get takedowns in the clinch. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold Arman down, but I think that if anyone gets takedowns, it's going to be Islam. And in terms of boxing, if Arman gets in a boxing range and kind of doesn't throw the kicks as much as he should, Islam is going to have a gigantic advantage there. I mean, Islam has really good head movement, really good straight punches, southpaw, kind of Russian-style boxing. He is very loose. He throws combos. And obviously his head kick is nasty. I mean, and if you look at their stand-up between these two guys, I think it's a huge advantage for Islam there. I feel like Islam has proven himself to be one of the best stand-up fighters in the world at any weight class today. I do think he can kind of get a little, spasticky at certain points, but I don't think Arman's going to be the type of guy to bring that out of him. And if Arman comes in here and fights a really smart game plan where he keeps it at range, is using a lot of kicks, I think he could make this fight very competitive, because I don't think Islam is as good pressuring. He likes to counter strike and then time takedowns off the back foot as well. But I think Arman, he's not going to trust his kicks enough. He's going to end up trying to wrestle as well. He's going to close the distance. He's going to get clipped by big punches by Islam. I think that Islam is eventually going to be able to time the kicks too. Even if Arman comes with that kick-heavy game plan and is doing everything right, I still think Islam finds a way to win by eventually getting the timing on the kicks and countering them, landing big punches. And I just think Islam is the better striker. I think he has the better conditioning over 5 rounds. I feel like he's the bigger guy with superior wrestling also. So even though Arman, I think, has the power advantage. I think Arman has the better kicks. I think Arman can pretty much negate the top pressure of Islam and make it a stand-up fight. I just think he doesn't have enough to win this one. I think that Islam is going to get the job done. Kind of agree with the line. I think it could be a little closer. I don't know if Islam is necessarily like parlayable or bettable. If you got him at that original like minus 205 line, even all the way to like minus 275, I think you could probably parlay him up. But minus 370, the value's probably gone on Islam. But I think Islam's going to win that fight. I think he could win via knockout. So that's kind of where I'm leaning on that one. So if you look at Islam via knockout, that does have a pretty good juicy price tag on it, and he could win via decision too. So if you hedge with both, I think you're going to end up probably making some money, but I got Islam winning in that fight. And so there you have it, guys. It's a full card breakdown predictions video for UFC 311. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you learned something, and thanks for sticking around watching the channel. I think this was a good breakdown video. I think this is a really good card where there's going to be some upsets and there's going to be some really fun fights. And ultimately, for my parlay of the week for you guys, I'm going to give you a parlay of the week of Peyton Talbot, Jolton Almeida, and Muin Gaffarov, Rinya Nakamura. So those three are going to be the parlay of the week. But I like some of these underdogs. Like I said, I think Ricky Turcios has some value. I think CDF has value. I think that Benio Dariush has value. I think Marab has value. So those guys I think are going to win as well. And yeah, man, go to patreon.com/prediction for extra content, help keep the channel going. There is a couple UAE Warrior shows going on this week. Next week, we got PFL coming back with an event. So stay locked in on Patreon. And we made some good money last week with the bet on Puna. So make sure to maybe tail some of these underdogs, see if you can make yourself some money, man. And thanks for watching this video. Hit the like button, put a comment down below, subscribe, and really appreciate everyone that helps with the algorithm by doing that. So, yeah, man, hit that like button, like I said, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.